Okay, let's dive right in. We've got a massive diplomatic firestorm brewing, and it's putting the US and some of its closest European allies on a collision course. But here's the wild part. It's all somehow connected to a brand new plan to tackle one of the biggest hurdles right here at home, buying a house. Yeah, you heard that right. It's this incredible mix of geopolitics, high-stakes dealmaking, and the American dream itself. And believe me, this is not just some minor spat. The reaction from Europe, it's been incredibly fast and honestly pretty severe. I mean, just look at this quote. When you have a Danish member of the European Parliament calling the actions of an ally economic warfare, well, that tells you everything you need to know. Things are really serious. This one quote just perfectly captures how high the tensions have gotten.
And the reaction? It's just unprecedented. We're talking about 8 NATO countries making symbolic military deployments. Think about that. Not against some enemy, but in response to a fellow ally. You've got calls for sanctions against big American companies, and even the French president is throwing around words like intimidation. And the scariest part? All of this is putting a massive landmark trade deal in serious jeopardy. This is definitely not business as usual.
So, okay, this leads us right to the heart of this diplomatic mess. What in the world is this Greenland Gambit all about? And why is it causing such an insane fallout between longtime friends? Let's break it down. It really is the million-dollar question, right? What on earth could trigger this kind of hostility? We're talking about allies, nations that have had each other's backs for decades. The answer? Well, let's just say it's probably not what you're thinking. And there you have it. The whole thing comes down to a proposal for the US to basically buy Greenland. Yep, that idea, plus the aggressive tactics being used to push it, have been met with just total outrage in Europe. And that's what's led to the massive standoff we're seeing play out. And this just perfectly shows the two completely different worlds these sides are living in. From the US perspective, the White House is calling this a critical national security matter, Greenland's strategic location in the Arctic is a huge deal. They see tariffs as just a tool, a negotiating tactic to get what they call a great deal. But on the other side of the Atlantic, the view is totally different. They see it as straight-up intimidation. They're saying an ally's sovereignty is not for sale, and that threatening another NATO member is just unacceptable. Now, if you really want to get inside the administration's mindset here, this quote from Kevin Hassett, the National Economic Council Director, is everything. He's basically saying, look, both sides might sound extreme right now, but it's all just part of the negotiation. From their point of view inside the White House, this is just the art of the deal in action. It's how you get things done. But let's be clear, the stakes here are absolutely massive. We're not talking about a small disagreement. There's a potential US-EU trade deal worth a staggering $1.35 trillion. That's trillion with a T. That includes hundreds of billions in energy deals and investments. And that entire thing, one of the biggest trade deals ever, is now just hanging by a thread. Okay, so just as all this international drama is unfolding, the administration is getting ready to announce a huge new policy right here at home. So we're going to pivot hard from the world stage straight to the American home front. And this is the problem they're aiming to fix. For so many people who dream of owning a home, this number right here is the biggest roadblock. $35,000. That's the new average down payment. I mean, for a lot of folks, especially younger people trying to get started, that number feels almost impossible to reach. And according to the White House, that number has more than doubled. It used to be around $17,000. And it's all thanks to the inflation that's been hitting us everywhere, right? From the grocery store to the car dealership, it's just made saving up for a house that much more difficult. So what's the big idea to fix this? Well, the plan is to let Americans tap into their own 401ks, that retirement savings account a lot of us have through work. The idea is to let you use that money for a down payment on a house, and, this is the key part, do it without getting crushed by the usual heavy taxes and penalties. And just so we're clear on why this is such a big deal, right now, if you try to pull money out of your 401k early, you get hit twice, first with taxes, and then with another penalty on top of that. One official even said it basically cuts the money you can actually use in half. So this new plan is all about getting rid of those roadblocks. Of course, taking money out of your retirement early opens up a whole other can of worms about long-term savings, but that's the proposal. So right now, this is still just a proposal, an idea on the table. What happens next? How does this go from a plan to an actual policy that people can use to buy a house?
And this is where our two stories, the international crisis and the domestic plan, crash back into each other. This homebuyer plan? It's set to be officially announced on the world stage. Where? At the World Economic Forum in Davos. Yeah, the very same place where all this tension over Greenland is front and center.
Meanwhile, back in Washington, officials are sounding pretty hopeful. They're saying they're hearing great enthusiasm for the plan, and they actually think it's something that could get support from both sides of the aisle in Congress. The thinking is, hey, helping Americans use their own money to buy a house, that should be a no-brainer that everyone can agree on.
So here's where we land. You've got these unconventional tactics happening on two totally different fronts. On one hand, you have this wild foreign policy move that's putting $1 trillion deal and a major alliance on the line. And on the other, you have this really unconventional idea to unlock retirement savings to tackle the housing crisis. So the big question is this just bold, out-of-the-box deal-making, or is it a massive gamble with both the global economy and the American dream? It's a lot to think about.